Boom. We are alive, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining this wonderful evening, morning, wherever you happen to be in the world. We have Q Lee, the president of Com2us. Q, I'm really excited to chat with you tonight. So let's just drop in. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Yeah, I'm actually on a family vacation now, but excited to be part on your show.
Well, I'm so grateful that you would take the time out of a vacation, a family one. So we'll keep it short. We'll cut to the point. C2x just recently launched on FTX. You guys had an explosive run right out the gate. Um, and I like to kind of build conviction over time through research. And you guys have built a lot of really cool projects. So do you want to start by introducing yourself and Com2us?
Sure. Yes, so I'm Q Lee. I'm the president of Come to Us USA. I joined the company in 2000, so I've been with the company for 21 years. Um, Come to Us was one of the first mobile game publishers in the world. We started from all of those old Nokia phones. And when the App Store came around, that's when our business really started growing. We had multiple hit titles on the App Store, service through the publisher named Gameville and Come to Us. Our biggest hit is Summoner's War. It's generated more than $2 billion in revenue to date. And yeah, because of that, I think we've got to explore into a lot of different type of ventures.
Wonderful. Yeah. Summoner's War. Thank you. I was really quickly last night. I was trying to share with people a few days ago, and I couldn't remember the video's name because I ended up in come to us as holdings arena instead of the C2x.world.
Uh-huh.
Do you, before we dive in, can you tell us a little about Summoner's War and the kind of the process of a game development within your guys' studio?
Yeah, so Summoner's War, it was launched like almost 8 years ago. We're about to do our 8th-year anniversary. It's a turn-based collection RPG game, and more than more than 1 million players still play the game every single day, and we have a great community. Yeah, a lot of fans, yes. So every like I think it started a lot of the turn-based games that you see on the App Store. So it was one of the first ones out there, and that's why it's so well recognized.
Oh wow, okay, fantastic. So I'm new to the gaming space. I've had more time in the crypto sector. For me, I'm really excited about the potential for allowing an on-ramp to more participation. This kind of play to own and play to earn phenomenon has been astounding to me. It's one of the ones I really like because I just like anything that brings power back into the hands of kind of the original participant in the network effect and growth of things. So you guys are going down a really unique angle here. Do you want to tell us about how you're planning to integrate blockchain and crypto into the C2x ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, as you mentioned, like I think for a lot of the games, since it's an RPG game, and since they spend so much time and effort and also a lot of money into the game, I think bringing ownership back to the user is extremely important. When I still remember when I was playing like Axie Infinity, and like I thought the game experience really wasn't there, but like with the amount of revenue that's going into the game and with the like yeah with the amount of efforts that get put into the game, I thought it could quickly catch up to any like collection based RPG game on the App Store pretty soon. And then I was thinking like, is this a game that I would like to play, or would I like to play a game where I have no ownership? And I absolutely thought that people will skew towards the one with the ownership. So that's when we really thought, people think that us going into the Web3 space was an offense move, but actually it was a defense move. In order to protect our business, we actually had to be on top of this, and we actually had to change our company to be a Web3 company to survive in the future.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. This the potential that's there for the participation rewards is such a fantastic idea. We were an early participator in some of the Bitcoin and Ethereum conversations. And in general, being early to anything is always great. And if you're an early adopter of a game that happens to explode, or really any social branding kind of identity that starts to explode, we were never rewarded for it. So I think the potential for to kind of break down that wall garden space that the esports teams have had from say the game building companies effectively, and create a more incentive fluent conversation between the developers and the gamers, and to be able to hand that control over. Can you tell us, you guys have built a bunch of games and you have some more in the roadmap. What does the roadmap for the future look like?
Yeah, so like our initial thought process is like, it takes about 2 or 3 years to um, like even build a small game, nowadays. Like some of our games, so we've been building for the past 5 years. So, but we have only learned Web3 like since last year. So, like if we started last year on a Web3 native game, maybe it'll come out like 3 or 4 years from now. I don't think anybody can wait for that. So what our thought process was, we have to take our existing games and then add a separate Web3 economy and bridge the Web2 and Web3 world is the fundamentals of C2X in the beginning. Because I still remember also when I was playing like Axie Infinity, there's so many steps that you have to go through. You have to first buy tokens, you have to set up a wallet, you have to purchase NFTs, and I think it's a big hurdle that the users have to cross. And also on the developers' point of view, there's so many blockchains out there. You have to pick all of that. You have to pick your wallet. You have to pick your marketplace, and it's also a lot of hurdles that the developers have to pass. So what C2X really provides is an easy on-ramp for the users and the developers. And we have like 2,000 developers internally. So we have about 20 teams developing games right now. And for these teams to on-ramp onto Web3, we had to really build out a great solution, which is C2X, and that's how we built out C2X. It was built out really easy for our internal teams, and we have 10 projects coming this year. But later this year, our plan is not, let's think of this in a more decentralized way. We can't be just using it all ourselves. We also want to open this up to like any third party, and that's how the C2X system platform was formed right now.
Yeah, I think this is an important way to go. Open source collaborative groups always seem to do better than closed wall garden, at least over long periods of time. I think there's some good scientific experiments that have kind of proven that collaboration is important. Because you guys have such a great team that have built different games. So I want to just make sure I'm clarifying the games that you guys have already built. You're going to work the in-game economies and the tokens that are generated within this game to communicate with the C2X token, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So the easy way to think of it is there's going to be a still in-app purchase economy. And then on top of that, there's going to be a Web3 economy. So the users won't feel like it's a Web3 game when they first play the game, but as they progress in the game, they'll earn like certain tokens, and then they'll feel the needs to download a wallet. They'll feel the needs to mint it as an NFT. So our approach is a little bit backwards compared to the other Web3 games in the market. Yeah, you mentioned like what type of games we're developing. It's all the games that we were preparing. We were preparing to launch Summoner's War Chronicles, which is the Summoner's War MMORPG, and we have like we're known to develop good RPG games. So we'll have like 5 or 6 RPG games. But not only that, we have a baseball game, we have a golf game, we have a fishing game. We're also known to do a lot of sports games, and who knows? It's going to be an open system. So I really want to be surprised by the developers who submit their games to the system.
one of the other things that we were excited about was your collaboration with Terra. Do you want to tell us about this choice?
Yes. So, to accomplish what we're going to do, I think all of the layer one companies could have fit that job actually. So I know that like all of the blockchains out there, they're really great, but Terra was really special. Is in like I try to think of like what do the other blockchains have if you remove gaming and NFT, and I think that's what Terra really has. I think they have a great DeFi ecosystem. They have a huge amazing community. Every time we hashtag Luna UST, there you get tons of likes. Yeah, the Lunatics are extremely supportive of what we're doing. And Do-kwon, the founder, he tweets like Elon Musk. He's very charismatic, and it's a lot of fun. And we're also proud Koreans too. So Do-kwon is also a Korean, and I think that also helped our decision too.
Fair enough. We had Dokwon on the show a few months back. We're fans of the tech. We like what they're building in DeFi as well, and we think it's important to build partnerships with I guess there's always sayings like you like think local, act global kind of ideas, right? So that it
Yeah,
makes sense.
they've accomplished so much even without the NFT, and even without gaming. And like if we can add on top of that, I think yeah, that would be great for the Terra ecosystem.
Yeah, I think there's a real big potential for this one, I think. And so this is the first technical game platform on the Terra ecosystem as well, correct?
Um, I think as a game platform, we're the first one, but as individual games, there've been many. I think Derby Stars is also another one that everybody's looking forward to. So and I know that there's a lot of Korean gaming companies looking into Terra really deeply. So I wouldn't be surprised that there are many others coming.
Yeah, that it's easier to tell, I think, which one the winners are going to be in a layer one conversation. It feels like better technical grounds, whereas social adoption has always surprised me. I've always seen people adopt things, and I was like, where really this took off? Like I would have never been able to guess that this is what will be so popular. You almost need that platform kind of generator mindset, because the things that I've never thought people would adopt, I adopt very quickly. So one of the next questions I want to go into is kind of a future forward thinking moment. What does this space look like in the next 5 to 10 years? Like what kind of features are we looking at? Like, yeah.
uh, yeah, so I think one of the like as I mentioned, so for the games that we're bringing on this year, or for the next few years, I would say like the games were thought in a very Web 2 oriented way, but now that we're going to see like so many more games coming into the Web 3 space, and I think all of these companies are going to learn so much from each other. I still remember when we were first launching our games on the App Store, and how free we were at the beginning, and then how shut down we became because of all of the guidelines that we had to follow. And I think right now Web3, it brings back that freedom to the developers, and I think that's where like our creativity is gonna start booming. Like thinking more of this as a financial product, thinking more of this in an interoperability type of way, thinking more in doing deep cross promotions between the games, linking this with all of the metaverses that are out there. I think there's going to be so many more things that we wanted to do, but like we weren't aware that we were so captured for the past decade. You know, I really look back and the App Store has done amazing, tremendous things for us because we come from the feature phone days. In the feature phone era, we had to knock on every single carrier around the world uh, to get distribution, and then we had to support every single device that they had. And we still have like hundreds, if not thousands, of mobile phones that we use to QA on. But I think the App Store really changed this and made us like with a push of a button distribute to like hundreds of countries around the world. They did an amazing job. Um, but but then I think there's still a lot of things that we were captured in, and I think Web3 is really going to open this creativity and imagination from all of the developers around the world.
Yeah, well said. We feel the same way. This acts as a force multiplier, just aligned incentives and economic models where the system isn't so lossless, where you have a more direct conversation relationship, and in any peer-to-peer ownership contract, it's just there's a lot of loss in the old ecosystem, it looks like. So my next thoughts here are, we'll keep a bit more specific. You're talking about interoperability. What is interoperability between like games and game characters look like? I don't know much about writing games, and I'm sure everyone's writing in different code. Is there any type of universal writing? Are people having those conversations? Is it more of a frequent conversation nowadays? It's a long
Yeah,
question, but
yeah. I don't know. Like I'm not the game designer, so I'm the business guy.
fair.
So I'll I'll follow their imagination. But but I was really thinking, like even for our games like Summoner's War, we have like not only one, we have like now two, three games being prepared. How awesome would it be if you could like use the same characters that you had from one game and in the other? Like just using it in one world is one of
Nice.
the obvious ones that you can explore in the future. Well, if the balancing isn't right, like you could incentivize the other games, by locking those characters into the other games. Is so that's one way to think about it. And then there's also all of these mixed world games too. Like how awesome would it be if you could bring one NFT to the other game and play it like, yeah. So use your imagination uh, to do those type of activities too. So yeah, and I think a lot of the users will want to identify these NFTs as themselves, and they want that to be the moving character in the different worlds. Is what I could imagine, but
Yeah.
again, I'm a business guy.
Yeah. No, well, the vision part is fun. There's no right answer. We're trying to, you did something earlier that I really liked, which is, can I imagine a future without this? In the way you say it is like, okay, is play to earn going to stick around? Well, yeah, it's actually really hard to see a future without it now. It seems like a very logical step. So I think this kind of addition by subtraction type of future is like, okay, it's hard to predict the future for what new things are going to arrive, because we don't know. Like the whole DeFi sector has surprised me every like 3 months. Like, well, this is some new cool way to use this technology. I did not yet suspect. So the ownership of identity, the ownership of those assets, this interplay between your identity in the game world, especially because you've got big esports players. I think there's a huge potential wave that's coming in. I think you guys are right on the edge of it. My next questions are more of like just a personal one. What's your favorite video game style? Is it MMORPG, an RPG? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like I still like those Legend of Zelda type of games, not the latest ones, but the old school style. I think I still like SD characters a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I fell in love with the cell phone games, because you could express so much with so little, and they're so cute. Maybe that's the Asian inside me, but But yeah, I think I really like those cute games that I can play in my hands. I still prefer like mobile games way over than PC. I like to sit back and play games rather than lean forward and play games, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Um, what about favorite game?
Favorite game? I have to go back. Yeah, so like I think Zenonia was one of my favorite games. Zenonia 2. It was one of the earliest games on the App Store. Also developed by our company. You probably don't want a game from our company, but I think
No,
I.
no, yeah, no. Well, so I'm over here purely like bewildered. So I have a fun time learning. Like I'd never heard of Zenonia before. So yeah, anywhere it
Yeah,
comes from, whatever your interests are, even if it comes from
yeah,
your own space, this
yeah,
looks
yeah.
fun.
Yes, so it's been old. It's old. You you might find it on the Nintendo DSi if that's still around.
From 2010, from
Yeah,
2010. Nice.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah. So
fantastic.
yeah, and yeah, Baseball Superstars was also one of our favorite. All around that time. I think that's when really games were fun. You know, when we were discovering a new platform, when we were moving on to doing something new, because these were the games that we actively played on the iPhone in the early iPhone days. I think I also play a lot of Web3 games these days, and yeah,
But yeah,
I play a
which
lot of
ones?
Crabata
Yes,
actually.
Crabat is great. Good choice.
Yes, yes, and
I'm
yeah,
with you on these cute games. Every time I see a cute game, I'm like, we probably want to find a way to invest in that.
yeah, but yeah, I think one day if I get to create a game, I'm gonna make a cute game. I'm gonna make a cute game with a huge world.
Yes. Yeah. Well, again, this is one of the interesting things about kind of adoption in the mainstream. We were looking at Stardew Valley, which was kind of a hit by a single game developer. It had really good storyline, the kind of participation with the community. People are looking for connection within these communities, within the storyline. I think it's one of the interesting conversations around the scholars and the guilds. And again, I think it was one of the interesting things about what C2x is doing here. If you're building a platform, kind of incentivizes people to stay within games, and then within that community more, they're all, because you have aligned incentives, everyone is more likely to help one another in problem solving, in fixing things. So there's the potential of the gaming industry, I think, is going to grow quite a bit because of that positive feedback from the community to the developers, to the gamers, etc. So you guys just went through a fantastic launch. How I see someone's got a question here about a specific game I want to ask too, but how do we participate with these games? Like, when can we play our first C2x game with the blockchain
um,
incorporated?
yeah, so our first games are coming next month, actually. So you can already download the C2X wallet. I think for yeah, so for early adopters, we have a lot of airdrops going on here and there. So you should follow Chromatic Souls on Twitter, and yeah, you should follow C2x.world, and they'll probably be tweeting about all of these promotions that are going on. Yes, so Chromatic Souls is one of the first games. It's an idle RPG game, and we also have Summoner's War Lost Centuria. Summoner's War Lost Centuria is actually already launched on the App Store. So we're going to do a lot of different type of experiments. So most of the games, like all of the games that we plan this year, are actually brand new games, but except for Summoner's War Lost Centuria. Summoner's War Lost Centuria, we are planning to do an update into a Web3 game. So it's going to be a Web2 game updated into a Web3 game. So we'll see how that goes. If that goes well, I think it opens doors to a lot of more opportunities too.
Awesome. I look forward to seeing how it progresses over time. Okay, so my last question, this is what I'm trying to learn more often. Who do you think's the most interesting person, like the cutting edge kind of idea? It could be in this sector, but it could be in any sector, I guess. Like, who do you think's the most interesting person to listen to or to talk to?
I think the most interesting people are yet to come.
Yeah,
So is what I think. Like adoption always takes time, but I think new technology creation can happen any moment. So like every year, like every conference, we hear about new technical products, and they're they always inspire us, and make us look old. And I think it's very important that we keep on adopting to them, and then following them. Yeah, like I really can't point out I really, if you gave me a day, uh,
no,
I'll think about it, and then I'll reply back to you. But
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
but
we'll cue.
I,
We'll put it on. We'll put on the simmer for the next podcast. We want to stay in touch. We want to see how this stuff grows. We think this is a huge potential here to just to one of the things I'm really excited about Q is what actually kind of sparked my imagination was the kind of social impact idea of this proliferation of the mobile phone, and you kind of what you had alluded to earlier, that the play to own package was also an on-ramp to financial services. And there's a lot of people around the world that do not have access to financial services, whether it's because they don't have an identification or a bank account of any kind. Whereas here, your kind of proof of work, your participation in the game works as enough to be an identity to kind of earn your way into the DeFi sector. And that's something we're super bullish and excited about, because there's a billion or 2 billion people that can probably play games, but that yet don't have access to a bank account. And this seems like a much easier transition than try to write guidelines so that these people that don't have IDs can have an ID. And they more actually like to, have a, as much as I hate to think about it like this, but kind of like that background performance indicator of, here's the participant, they've got a lot of devotion in the game, they're sharing it with friends, they're rewarding them. Because ultimately, yeah, that participation feedback loop is really powerful for a brand. So when you have a summoner's war, like one of the questions here was, someone's like, oh, I want to know, is Sky Arena maybe going to come to Web3? And like you mentioned, you guys have built a brand here where the Summoners of War has been around for how many years? Since 2010?
yeah. So it's been around for 8 years. Yeah. So, but Summoner's War couldn't be where it is right now without the community. We spend a lot of time communicating with the community, and we already have that feedback loop coming, although they may not be always happy about the directions that we're going. But it's 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 a product of a community, and that's what free to play business was. Free to play business was, it wasn't just about a free game. It was more about having a live operated game. So our games, before, it was just a single product, and then when we changed into free to play, the biggest change that we had to change in our whole organization was adding a service team layer on top, in order to do live operations. And now we have a huge community. It's very active. We before COVID, we used to do a tour of America. We would travel around like 10 different cities, and do like local fan gatherings of hundreds or 200 people. And yes, and we also have the esports events, and it's all community driven. Summoner's War is community driven, and I think the best way that we could give back to our community was just through our games. But now I think with Web3, I think there's so many other ways that we could give back to our community. There's so many other ways that we can incentivize our community to grow the community too. We had to pay all of our money to the ad networks, where the ad networks, they weren't kicking the money back into the game. They were just taking out for other things. But I think if we could incentivize our community to grow our community, we could do so many more things. in the future.
Yes, yeah, and the part, it's a weird thing too, but to participate in the network effect and the growth, like asymmetric growth. We made some early investments in Matic back in 2018, and people just are not usually exposed to such high growth potentials. Like with Bitcoin, these 10,000% gains effectively you don't see in the traditional stock market, because most of the big investors have already shown up and kind of chewed everything up. But this kind of decentralized platformization of ownership, especially if you have a brand that can grow and is adopted and is liked for some. I mean, some brands grow for a century, right? Some brands have been around for a century, so we know that brands have that staying power too. And it's one of these interesting conversations between the dialogue and kind of the of around what is a currency or what is a money, how much of it needs to be backed by anything versus just the kind of the mimetic belief of people and like what they think is valuable. So we're stepping into some really cool territory. So I think I'm really excited to keep up with the C2x story and see where you guys go. And hopefully we can play a game together here one of these evenings as well, Q.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me, and I really want to thank everybody who has been supportive of C2x. We hope we don't let you down, and we're working really hard, and we're going to deliver a lot of new games and new experiences.
Yeah, well, from what I've read in some of the comments and a few people who've responded about Summoners War, you've already got a very happy community. So I think you guys have, you're doing the
by
right
the way,
thing.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for Sky Arena yet.
No.
So I owe that person an answer.
Okay, well, I look forward to hearing that. Well, thank you so much, Q. Enjoy the rest of your ski holiday. I really appreciate you taking the time out this evening to chat with us. If you want to stick around for just a few minutes after this as well, I'll keep you on. Bear Family, give us a thumbs up if you like this content. I really appreciate you guys sticking around and enjoying this chat. I'm really stoked about what C2x is building. And again, that branding identity we think is really powerful. So make sure you keep an eye on it, do your own due diligence, make sure you're clicking on all the right links. They're not in there right now, but they will be. Check on the links down below or go to arcanebear.com. Under the Wu Wei, you will see that C2x blog as well. But make sure you follow them on all of their social channels and to keep up to date, because they're the most in tune. And again, Q, thank you. I really appreciate your time this evening.